yesterday. They have all the documentation. Yesterday, it was just a little bit of extra data to top up the big full cup of data that they can drink from the deliciousness of wolves.
I don't think you drink sheets, but I mean,
you could
theoretically put it in the blender and potentially it tastes quite nice. Either way, BDS against Wolves, Cafe bends in the way to Flores. Makes kind of sense. I mean, there is often some good positions with shields that are hard to get rid of, especially with a Jaeger on the board, with a Wamai on the board. Those Gone 6 often do not reach the point of destination, and Flores then would be the way to get rid of it. However, he's been got rid of himself, and he's not going to be here to put those RCEs on the spot, just like Thatcher. I didn't think I see the data that Thatcher gets banned. Mira, same thing as well, and then a Valkyrie, also a well-known stay on the bench.
I think a Thatcher ban on this map especially, it's, you know, there is the drives of utility, but it's, Cafe for me is always synonymous with that heavy pixel meta, that idea of we've got to get through that top corner, there's a shield and all the ADSs and every single disc that you can possibly find to catch an explosive there. And, you know, there's still drives, don't get me wrong, there's still places you can use it in a clever hand. So removing it is knowledge. It's a knowledge that, well, Rafale is often a very clever hand with a Thatcher if he's on the roll, but BDS can manipulate that play.
They definitely can, and, you know, they're an experienced team. The same goes for Wolves, so both will be more than proficient in getting around whatever is brought and whatever needs to be dealt with without a Thatcher. But I think that goes for any team here on the Major. I think anybody practices without Thatcher because it's just one of those operators that gets banned so often. And even when he would be open, you don't even see him brought that often anymore because there is other operators that can do the job for you.
Yeah.
A Twitch or grenades or a Gone 6, those would often get rid of the utility as well.
All right, starting it up with a little bit of pepper and a little bit of an early and an every single attacker repick there. Wolves had a plan A and went to a plan B. They think that they've got a different approach here, and as Rafale puts and pops a bit of early pressure onto the door just to make sure that it's open and puts a bit of food for thought in anyone that goes for a quicker approach here. He's trying to keep himself active, looking for anybody that might be out and about underneath the arena can get themselves locked in, but look at the pressure that's already coming here onto the white window. Alems is the one that's on the other side. Some cover from the gnome out the air jabs and a bit of control here. Double down with the gridlock. They really want to limit the space control here for BDS.
I was about to mention it to you. We have air jabs, we have the track stingers that will both be making an appearance in this game here. Usually it's one or the other. However, the Wolves are really wanting to limit it here. Mowgli has to be very careful there. Drops down at the exact same or right moment as Renshiro wanted to go a bit aggressive down with the Elder.
They're looking towards the ADS. They're looking towards the pressure here onto the back window. P4 with a quick drop down the hatch. He's disguised as the Nook, but it's Shaika that opens it up. The spray back. Malusi's caught out. P4, he can get swung on from several different locations, so stays low. Wants to find the Maestro and does. A huge blow. Goes for the next onto Lumber. Can't quite get the connection. A 3 versus 3 is saved by Alems there over the top, but it's back and forth, and Playday finally finds a little bit of a resurgence to the early pick and the body balance that was in their favor. A hold. The first breath and moment the players can take here with 1:45 left on the clock. There is so much time here for Wolves to try and reconvene. A 3 versus 2 isn't impossible, but you're looking at the utility that's already gone from their pockets.
Yeah, no more grenades, just a single flashbang in pocket and a couple of drones that they can use to find some information. Of course it's possible. However, at the same time, BDS, a very experienced team here, is going to be trying to set up some, you know, proper cross angles. Make sure they're not taking these 1v1s and give Wolves the opportunity to get back into it.
Well, that drone gets caught out. They know that there's a player in Lumber, and they know they have some security to go for a drop, but there is still intel. We heard some whirring of cameras, and there's a catch there onto that one. They're going to see if they can get a little bit of width. They obviously don't have that wall open there, so the rotation, the push from the cigar door is going to be a bit awkward, a little bit clumsy. You can see BDS has pulled themselves to a backline. Bibu suffers the first fight. There's a punch hole that is very quickly read, but that bulletproof on the far wall is just giving all this intel towards where Shinker is. You can see that BDS aren't overextending. They have themselves in a cross angle. They know where one player is on the ping, but it's a hard wall, and there's a player to his right inside the bathroom. It's a crossfire. It's an angle. It's a lack of an overextension. It's probably going to be a catch here onto the side. 3, 2, 1, and there it is.
Alems will be able to find that very last kill, and BDS with that find their first round. And in the first round as well. So well played by BDS there. They were able to hold off the aggression that came in from the side of Wolves. And yes, some frags went either way, but in the end, BDS was able to hold on to that top spot, managed to trade out most of the Wolf players. And as they're all congratulating each other, they know that this is a very important game for them. It's not the return yet. It is the very first, but with that, they can overtake Wolves for that second spot in the group.
It's a must-win for so many different levels for BBS. BBS? BDS. BBS? No. BDS, yes. Because it's an opponent they know. At this point, Astralis is sitting very pretty at the top of the board, but they weren't competitive against Astralis in their showdown yesterday. Wolves were. So if BDS lose this game to Wolves, Wolves are suddenly in this real strong position of second place as ours.
They're taking out the complete wall.
Yeah, well, you know,
you get that big DB28. Why not? Why not just remove it? I mean,
that's what BBS stands for. Bye-bye soft.
Bye-bye soft walls. All right. It's the open wall policy that they're willing to use here on the side of BDS. They provide some long angles to themselves, and this might actually play into playing offside. So we will see someone in Kojak holding long angles, maybe someone from the hallway, for example, that is going to be looking through that big wall that just became a very big door instead.
It's a lot of movement here from BDS as their opener. We saw Rafal being the sort of explorer, the map on the previous round, and this time Alems up on the roll. And there's games where he really starts to cook, and that's a big blow early. Shaiko is able to catch Mowgli here, who is this performer where in the game where he was big, if we're talking about big performers, they took it, they won it, they put a bit of a fight in. The game that they lost, he was lost. And here, aforementioned, 2 rounds, 2 losses. He's got to be a brain that starts to click a little bit quicker.
It's a land build, right? Like, it's a bit of a different one, and Shaiko's feeling confident here. He's just deciding to go for these entry engagements, and has been able to find 2 so far in round 2 now as well. So he's doing his job here for the side of BDS. Now, with a man advantage, they need to try and hold on. Some Selmas are being popped up. They're trying to open up into the prep side of things, and Rafal is just going to get pushed on by Bibu. Will be picked up. A grenade from Shaiko, however, does confirm him and trade him back out. And suddenly it's all up to P4 now, with a farmhouse up against 4 BDS members.
I mean, they're just throwing the impact there to get the catch. There's one back onto Bakery, but Alems has a backline. BDS, they know what Wolves wanted to do there. As soon as they read the smokes, the positions. Okay, Ranshiro's going to do his best to survive for as long as possible behind the Bakery blind. You have the play on the impact. You have the spray round. I mean, here it's just the smoke cover, but at that point, it's the cover onto the door. It's the communique.
It definitely is, and 2-0 now for BDS, and they'll be very hyped about that. Actually, you know, it's completely off topic for this game, but I saw Eagle Mace yesterday.
Oh,
it's like the first time in forever I've seen him.
Yeah.
He's just walking around his BDS
Well,
camp.
it's a little bit on topic, because
yeah,
for the people that aren't HAP or aren't from the Netherlands, Eagle Maze is an analyst for BDS.
Yes,
he usually has to do his work
analyst
from home, but this time around, a lot more sports stuff. Because Healthy's also here for the side of Wolves, who also
around as well.
often has to sort of sit at the back and leave it.
It's like normally the analysts do not always go along, especially not with the previous majors we've had.
No.
So it was definitely a very welcome change to see them walk around. And I just heard his voice in the hallway, and I was like, wait, is that Eagle Maze? And it just ran out from the catering towards him to say hello to him. But either way, 2-0 currently BDS. They are in that lead, and you know, they will be looking at this, the support staff, thinking, all right, this is a very important game. We need these 3 points here to put Wolves behind us and make sure we have that head-to-head going at least for us right now.
Wolves, they've had a moment. They've had a bit of a slow, they've had a little bit of a scalper, and they've at least been able to get aggressive towards the fights with BDS. But in terms of the site, okay, that kitchen was quite open, so it's hard to judge how much pressure they put onto it. In terms of the Nook getting in, okay, they got really deep and forced BDS back off the site, but they hadn't done too much in terms of removing the structure. So when it came to rotate onto the double red, well, it wasn't done. Here, I'm thinking they might try and get themselves a little bit more controlled, a little bit more driven, but to be fair, it's always tricky against BDS because BDS likes to play their game, and they often don't respond to other people who want to try and stop them. BB's looking for sprays here, hoping a jump out comes. Renshiro suffers with a bit of pressure. Rise gets Alems over the top. He's driving himself across the big bar here. Mowgli's gone for the hop-in, and at this point they pull back. There's a player behind the pillar, but they're going to wait. They're just making sure that their other players can escape.
Yeah, the last 2 rounds, we more so saw a gunfight round rather than a strategical one at that. So it is going to be interesting to see if Wolves is going to be able to finally get that setup going, finally start opening up some of these floors, some of these walls, so they could try and aim for a plant in just a couple of these seconds. I mean, there's only 90 left, so this is the moment where they should start sledgehammering up that top, to start opening up the wall if they want to use it, or set themselves up in a position where they could go for a plant. But that nitro cell, well, that might just catch someone off guard there.
Well, it's that sort of game now. The Sledge is going to be playing a minute 10, and it just takes a bit of timing and understanding of the routes that they like to follow. The work's done elsewhere. Almost got a catch, but not quite. They pull back the fight. Mowgli's going to see if he can try and find his first blow here over the heavy machinery. Can't get a true connection. Shaiko is making a response of his own. Rasta once again, long arm with those explosive impacts, but he has his own explosive impact. If we talk about we want Mowgli to show up, BDS want Shaiko, and he definitely is so far. A lot of energy in his opening rounds here.
For sure. It's good to see Shaiko just throwing out these impacts, trying to deal a little bit of chip damage, because even if he dies, he still did something out there. P4 taking small amounts of damage from, I believe that is Shaiko as well, that is just looking to take a fight wherever he goes. Rafal now being pushed down the stairs just a little bit, but that might actually be beneficial here, because Playday is there to cover him. They're just waiting for the person on those stairs, and they sweep on him together, but it's only Playday and Rafal left now.
The smoke canisters are stopping anything as a bit of a breach here. They can't quite get it locked in, but P4 locks over the vertical control. Playday is all that is left of this backline. The first fight over Zulu goes his way, reveals his position. They probably know they can stick it. 12 seconds though, and where's the cover? Playday, he's got to try and go for a quick run. A little bit too late. He thought they were on the second story, but P4 rotate, and Wolves find a response on the third round.
Verticality there, important. You open up, you start pushing people out of the sides, you can lock in these kills one by one, and it doesn't really matter that one person is left on those white stairs. They might get a kill there, but as long as you still have one person up on that top floor, you're going to be able to continue to challenge that. And that's exactly what happened. Wolves was able to shut down the BDS defenders one by one on their tertiary site. And now we're headed back towards the bar. The first site that was played. And yes, we saw Nuck getting quite deep after Shaiko had an entry kill. Managed to pick up 2 before the entirety of Wolves started to fall apart. Are we going to be seeing a little bit more structure now? Are we going to see a structured take or attack? That is currently the approach of Wolves. Or will we see even more explosions to be opening up this round with?
Again, it's all well and good talking about how important this game is to BDS, but to be fair, the conversation is the same for Wolves. All right, everybody wants to be first. You want to leave your group at the top, have the better seed, and be able to start to put that pressure on early. And Astralis are currently sitting there with some fantastic siege yesterday. We cannot talk how they haven't, we cannot sort of downplay what they did.
No, we can't.
It wasn't that they had sort of easier opponents, it wasn't that they were underperforming, it's that they played some, spicy siege. And both these teams know it, because they were on the other side of that. So they might have the idea that if we're not going to be first, we still got to be second. And in that board, in that moment, based on how things have gone with their game against Chiefs, it's against each other. There is a lot of heat in this showdown. They know there'll be a second one coming towards one of the last games that they'll play in groups. So if they can take the upper hand here, suddenly they have a little bit more on the home turf game later.
That last game might be deciding which of these two teams could be making it to the playoffs in the end as well, of course, if it does come down to that in the end. So both of them want to take the advantage whilst they can. And this is a small change indeed, like the double claymore now. You have 2 claymores in your pocket, which means that you can lock out both of these windows here on Cafe that are often used to go for a small jump out if someone is currently trying to repel on piano.
Now you can see that there's a slightly different approach here from Wolves. They're still quick to put some attention down. They're still quick to try and hit softs and see if anybody's there. But as I said before, last time they went for a bit of a sort of bold strategy. They went for the drop in and they didn't open the structure. They didn't give themselves an option in case it went wrong. It went wrong. And then they found themselves in a 2 versus 1 towards the end. Here, they've got a little bit more of a lead in. Mowgli, he drops over to the split. There is an angle that's sort of opened. It's a lot of standard here. They've pulled themselves back. They've got themselves all the way in. They're hoping the Maestro is home, but he's not. And now they found themselves in a position to start trying to burn their way through. Alems opens it up, though, finds P4.
It's going to be a very important kill there. P4 gone. That is that Finka. That is the LMG. That is grenades. That is a gun stick. So many things to mention there. A bit of a team flash coming through allows Alems as well to open up a little bit more for the jump out there, because he would have been deaf as well as that stun grenade goes off. But what you see now is that the Wolves are starting to circle around the side a little bit here. They have a way in. She's not completely safe yet, as they haven't taken care of the freezer as of yet. So that is going to be their next step.
Okay, well, there's a hop through. Shaiko is able to find Bibu, is able to get out of there as well, most importantly. And now that's 2 bodies off the board. P4 has been a huge driving factor. It leaves some of those that haven't quite been able to have as positive a connection with the game itself. It's big angles from BDS. They're sort of saying, come on, try us. And Wolves are trying to work out how. 30 seconds, and we're finally starting to get some destruction onto the cameras in the back line here. The gate, the Aruni one is popped, and well, you're ready to go through it, but at some point it's going to come back to life. There's Renshiro, a huge gun on the back line, gets a huge double here. They've sort of said, there's your entrance, there's your route, and there's Shinka sat, waiting, watching, 15 seconds. Every single BDS player left to try and go through at this point. It's a team talk a little bit earlier. They might have more in-depth one after this round, because BDS, they're starting to spark.
It's a flawless round as well at that here at that top floor, and for a second I was thinking, okay, it's a 5v1. Are they going to be trying to go for a bit of aggression? Didn't really seem to be the case there. They all stayed put. They all held their angles. They weren't overstepping, even though they were in such an advantageous position there. And that's the kind of discipline that you will be needing at the end of the day when things start to get a little bit closer here. It seems like we do have a tactical timeout, or at least ATL, which I assume is timeout. Thanks to our, yeah, there it is. So they're having a bit of a talk, because 3-1 the current score.
You need to have a conversation at this point, because Wolves had a fight and BDS fought back in that way that's the worst way, which is a flawless.
Yeah.
They didn't even get a taste of the BDS players. You look at how it started, it was a dead body underneath the new hatch. I think that was a lens from pillars and underneath based on where we saw him next. I could be wrong about that, but you next saw him around white stairs coming up. So it makes sense instead of taking the drop from the other side. He could have, but probably didn't. At that point as well, if they're reading your approach that quickly and they're taking out your one player who's had a huge impact in this game, because you look down the side of Wolves, it's P4 and then everybody else is sort of struggling,
doing something.
He has not only all the kills of the team put together, but then he's got 2 more than that as well. Whereas on the other side, the lowest is joint second best for BDS right now with the Wolves. They haven't just lost these rounds, they've sort of been swept aside.
Yeah, and that's kind of it, right? I mean, Shaiko is getting these kills, he's going aggressive, he's feeling confident, he's just pushing at it every single opportunity he gets. You have Lem's getting an entry kill, then you have the Alda from Rafal at the end that is just able to pick up 2 of those kills as well. And they're just aggressive now on the side of BDS. You know what? What's the best way to start a tactical timeout? Just go for a spawn peek. Lems was a bit patient there. Saw him hop by, knew I cannot lock with this kill as he's jumping over. I need to wait for him to come back. And as he does that, he gets that kill.
I mean, it's a response they often like to do. Rise suffers next. They're trying to find the fight and the loose player, but Lems is able to slip on by. That 7-second window of getting a response is gone. The drones roll by. He has some support. He has Playday on the swing round, and there's not many other players that you would prefer in that situation of being lifeline. Wolves, they find themselves once again being bit at, losing a body and then not being able to formulate a response here. Mowgli, he's trying to get that angle, that swing inside coat. He's concerned, but the cover does come through there. There is some angles being watched. There's a bit of a burn, actually, to stop any movement.
Oh, this is smart!
Oh, Shaiko swung round, as you said, very clever. They had the fire there to sort of allude to, we're watching this from afar, but Shaiko, he was close to the fire.
I was going to say, they probably put up the fire there, and it's like, oh, there's no one in Kojak at this moment. He just swings, he gets the kill. That is now a double entry before P4 is finally able to strike back. Who else than P4? He's been one of those consistent players ever since he came through the Challenger League, always able to pick up the kills, and now he's trying to do his best to carry the Wolves across here, but more needs to happen. The rest of the team needs to step it up as well.
Bibu's trying to get the angle onto the player in the corner, but they really don't have to overextend. You can see a rotation coming through from Rise on the far side to the double window. They're going to try and force them out. The grenade! Playday moves in and amongst it and finds a second, looks for a third, can't quite get it. Rise, a very important take back, but he still needs to find 3 more for any hope of turning this round into a success story, the one right after the timeout. The cold kit in just over a minute means it is all to do for the Sledge. You still have Shaiko with the impacts he loves to throw. You still have Rafal without any smokes, and Alems with a sliver of health, but he's already taken a body this round. He is more than happy to find another, but this is when BDS do this. They sit, they stop, they don't need to throw themselves into this. They're happy.
They can just camp this one out. They're gonna wait. They're gonna see what Rise is gonna be doing, because he wasted about 20-25 seconds right now just picking up the diffuser, and now he still needs to head towards the side where cross angles are waiting to be set up. And BDS, they notice as well, and as soon as Rise gets in, he might be able to get a single kill. After that, he probably wants to go for a plant attempt, but he gives away his position now. He starts shooting with that L85. They know exactly that he's either jumping through this window or moving through that door. Both are being covered off, and Shaiko with the holographic is going to be able to find that head as soon as that peeks around the corner. Look at that reaction. Very quick.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Pretty good one.
He's pretty good at this game. This is the thing about this BDS. Look at that! The zoom! Great zoom.
I was just going to say, Playday being in this position. Abibu, I understand this, right? I'm a fan of tossing in grenades in a position where someone is uncooked. Yep. Because you force them to move out.
That's why you're doing it.
Exactly. And if you're done set up with 3 people, you should be able to pick up the kill. But it's Playday. And Playday doesn't really want to go down. He wants to fight. And he picks up 1, he picks up 2, and then gets picked up by the 3rd.
I think that's the thing about that position and knowledge and game sense is Playday knows that that's an uncooked grenade, so he runs the numbers. You zoom in, there's numbers flying around his head. Beep, beep, beep. All this math, the math has the one result that they're going to be sat there holding an angle. So I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to hit back onto that angle, find the kill and the take, and then that's what he does. And then that's how he's rewarded for it. It's game sense in its best form.
I mean, the man probably played a couple of thousand rounds in that exact same position, so he's gone through every single possible way of them trying to clear him as he's sitting there. So it is the game sense, it's the experience that comes in, and it's the raw gun skill that he possesses as well. And with that, BDS now leading 4-1, looking like they want to be storming towards a 3-pointer here.
4-1. BDS, and it's been very much their game. Once again, P4 really the only one to have at least a kill. A second did come through, but still, he keeps himself more of a distance. 2 kills clear of the rest of his team put together. Matched with Shaiko, but Shaiko is only part of the big puzzle and problem that's being posed against them here.
And sure, Shaiko is a really big part of that problem, but so is every single member of BDS currently. They're all managing to step up, and the Wolves unable so far to find the same kind of sharpness that they had yesterday. Whereas BDS has truly improved, and after that disappointing SI, will want to make sure that they're making it to the playoffs here during this Charlotte Major.
A bit of a stretch, a bit of a pressure, and a bit of a moment here. If they can find a 4-2 on the turn of the half, get to their defense, they might be able to pull some things together. BDS are very good at defending maps. They're very good at defending Cafe as well. And sure, it's been a spot where Wolves put in a fight yesterday, but here they've just not looked. As Tune conclude in. A bit of a swing around with some width. This was the site. They were able to do a bit of damage before, but Rise suffered a bit early. Mowgli suffers next. Still unable to connect with this game at all.
He's unable to find that single kill. An assist is all he has at this point, but that's not really what he wants to go for here. And as Rise is trying to take the fight across, didn't you have it around the bar as well? It's Rinchir that picks up yet another kill. P4 now punished. P4 the hard hitter on the side of Wolves that has been able to put numbers on the board. Is not allowed to put any more on the board for this half. Needs to wait until they're going over to the defense themselves. And that is someone very far snuck up, Alems. He's going to be striking hard, finds one, goes even more aggressive. I was going to say you're not allowed to get away with that, and he didn't. But it's a 3-2 situation now.
BB around the back line has found his way to Lumber. He's pre-firing the whole angle, but it's a gun that can. Still 64 bullets. Another bit of a player here, swung around inside the freezer. They're not entirely sure whether Malusi's gone, but they're definitely going to try and fight their way out. There is the cover on the other side. Shinker, 2 versus 2. Now, this is one of the best positions that we've seen Wolves in for a long time on the site that they were able to take before. They're going to see if they can try and make one more. Rafal Waiting arms. Well, actually, not really. It's a gun and a barrel in those waiting, but 20 seconds. They're going to have to take the drop. He knows this. They know this. The grenade doesn't get the full catch. There it is to pick up the response. Shink around on the backside. Looks, sees the last player. Sprays. Praise. Doesn't connect. Playday.
They tried to go for a double push there. The grenade actually injured the Finka as it gusts through, did some damage. But Playday, you should have been caught up there in the first time around, but was able to live. Knew exactly what was going through the rotate and send that MX4 Storm with all his bullets and rate of fire into that direction. I was going to say, Alem's going very ambitious there. Almost got away with a second kill there, but he was not allowed to. And of course, did it in the end there. And you have it from the round end screen. Just very calm, as you can see on his face.
I mean, we've said this about hit that player however many times.
What is emotion? It's just another day in the office for him.
It's another day. He could make the clutch of the century. I think
a small smile.
It's not that it's not a lack of emotion, because the first round that they win, he's always quite passionate. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, now I'm in my game.
It's focus.
Now I'm in my game. He knows his game.
It's the focus that they need to have to pull through, because they also know we're currently in third place. It's an important game we have. If I get too excited now, that is energy I can no longer use.
It's a long day.
It's a long day. That is definitely true. And it's a long tournament still. It's only day 2 out of the 6 of competition, out of the 7 that we will be here. And with that, it is BDS now 2 rounds away from picking up 3 points and 2 rounds away from putting themselves above Wolves on the standings.
I think that's it right now for Wolves. There's a deficit that they've got to try and fight their way back through here. There was at least a little bit of growth, but you're still looking at that awkward overhang in the middle of the players on the right-hand side of your screen. Haven't quite been able to get the right side of this.
There's a Kali on the board. Saw a little bit yesterday. It's not an operator you often see in online play. And of course, due to the fact that we're currently playing on 0 ping here, that shot, if it connects, it is going to be taking out one of those players. It's also an alternative to Thatcher. You can just send that lance through a wall, take care of any other piece of utility that's in the other side of it. But the same goes for the shield. You have 3 lances you can shoot to get rid of that shield and the ADS right behind it. So Mowgli playing in Pixel here, you have to find a connection, might find himself being hunted down by Kali here.
Mowgli's doing their best to hold on to the pixel spot here as the drones whir and whiz by. They have what is a hefty bit of a drive here, obviously with the Thatcher gone, which was the removal against BDS. They brought and opted for that Kali to try and fill that void. As I said, Rafal's a very good player of Thatcher, and well, they're a pretty good player of Kali too when they're given that option. There's a bit of a roam and a rotation down at the bottom over the red stair set. You can see that loose player here, and they're just trying to make sure they strike at the right time. BDS usually don't sit on their laurels too much. They know when they want to try and put the pressure on here, and it's the spray down towards the secondary shield, the one on the swing inside the bathroom. A smoke, a canister, a pop, and a prop of all the utility in the world.
Do you see that? They use the explosive lens on the wall right beside it, so an ADS wouldn't be able to catch it off. It goes through, takes care of the shield, so there's none left now. Shaka takes a bit of small damage though, as Mowgli is still desperately trying to find his very first kill here. He's quick peeking in and out, just hoping to find some information.
He survived, and that's the most important part. 2 minutes of time wasted, even with and without a shield now. He can still sort of prop himself up. P4 is still on the far side, waiting patiently, but you can see drones working around the same place, also doing that same game. 50 seconds, though, and the onus of time is the one that is currently in the pockets of BDS. They need to make sure they can try and at least do some ground. There's the prop and the setup still on the hatch above the skylight. There's the swing on the fight towards Shinka. They're just doing enough to make sure they can't get a true swing in here, but the grenades will start to roll. The freezer, given that all clear, that grenade doesn't get the catch. More drones, more angles, more pops, and the bulletproof, protected by the gate. Renshiro has to get off. Opens up. He's going to go for a swing round, maybe a bat of a grenade, a pressure, and 20 seconds. It's going to be 3, 2, 1, go. Another pop, and Mowgli's able to find his first to spray through. Shaiko gets one of his own for the challenge. Caught in the smoke, and they're going to duck down behind the soft on the other side, but P4 with a huge take there over Freezer. They're round on the back. That flank is able to get one more connection here. Rafal, only one left on the far side. The Kali can't quite find anybody. Wolves stall BDS out with some very good long arm play.
P4 flank is more important than some people might notice. He finds one, finds the injure onto the diffuser carrier as well, which then means it gets dropped, which means they need to pick it back up, but they dug in themselves so deep already that the Wolves have covered up every single angle back out of their current positions. And they ran out of time. And Wolves, they find their second round. And, well, as BDS, they played it smart. They got rid of the shields. Maybe a little bit too slow, I dare to say. They could have put up a bit more pace. Also, no real drones that I saw going through the side. It was all shoulder peaks and pre-fires from Shaiko, grenades being tossed in to try and figure out where these defenders are. But as a result, they never knew that P4 was not on the side. And he's allowed to come up. If P4 was localized earlier, if they knew someone was still going to be coming up the red stairs for a flank, it could have been a BDS round. But it's always those what-ifs questions that we will ask on the back of a single action. What if this would have happened?
What if, when if, where if, who if?
10 seconds to insertion.
Is there any more?
I was trying to think of one, but I couldn't. It's early.
Before insertion.
It's the start of a day.
Well, it's early in some parts of the world, not in others.
True.
It's currently 5 p.m. back at home. No, actually 3 p.m. back at home, sorry. Can't read.
Depends where your home is.
Yeah, depends where
I
your
live in
home
a
is.
different time zone to you.
That is very true. So if it's 3 for me, it's 2 for you.
All right.
There you go.
I'm glad we get to the bottom of that, and I guess we'll see if BDS can get to the bottom of how do we get a little bit quicker here. They're not opting to go to kitchen next, but they want to try and bait the play. Well, you can't really do that. Attack repick exists at this point. Oh-hoo-hoo! And they get an easy pick. Their head of LMs was a gift that Rise was more than happy to accept the hold and the quick, sharp play. Renshiro is now going to see if he can offer some width. Stair set, get that open, but it's an early blow because they've lost their Nomad. And we saw in the previous round, the Roman P4 was what struck back with a hefty double kill at the worst possible moment. If you're a BDS fan, the best if you're Wolves.
Yep, so far, by the way, I'm waiting to round 8. Every single entry kill has eventually translated into a round win throughout this game. So if we could just end the round here. That's it. Wolves have won it.
It would be less exciting.
That would be less exciting. So, you know what? Let's just play it out in the end. There are Lambs with that Nomad taken out. You know, we saw P4 in that big flank. Might be able to do it again here if you would really want to do so, because those air jabs not really going to be too much of an issue. The LMG might be.
Well, that's it. P4's trying to find himself just somewhere safe to go, but the LMG is able to open holes and give yourself angles. You could hear the drones that were wearing their way around. They have some cover and some support to make sure nobody is on that wider flank. But to be fair, it's not really one that you'll set yourself up here on an early hold because you've got too much to do. You got the main story itself and then above to keep that vertical into your favor. Shaiko, he's seen a slip through. He's found a little bit of a gap here. He's not truly convinced nobody's there, but he's about to be as they're still trying to formulate it. Rafal is holding the angle of one of the players above. They've got themselves prepped up here. They've made their presence known, but without the verticality, they can't just squeeze their way in. There's a fight here. Long range, and Bibu suffers next, but he doesn't have to overextend. He just has to exist.
Now that Surya Laser Gate might be a bit of a trouble there, so they need to get rid of it some way, but then you look it over to the left, you see 2 grenades, you don't really want to use those 2 flashbangs on Playday. Now that will probably be the utility to piece that does get tossed through, but suddenly Rafal is just knocking on the door. Nothing he can do because he cannot go through. He needs to waste his HP if he wants to.
Wow, they're trying to get themselves open on the Pillar's wall here. They're trying to go for the slow creep, but again, Wolves aren't giving themselves anything. They know they have the man advantage. They're going to make sure that when they need to make a response, it's there. Finally, we have a bit of rotation down on the white stairs. P4 somehow slips his way into the close corners. They're inside the site, though. BDS are on the dining table. The diffuser goes cold. It's all coming up. Wolves across the left-hand side of your screen. And Renshiro, who was that loose play player, is now going to have to see if he can try and make every connection. 2 stories. A great take onto the player on the stairs, but Wolves bite back. There's some energy that they were lacking in the first half.
Because they're starting to get back here from 5-1 to 5-3 in just 2 rounds. They managed to make sure that suddenly the fight seems to be on again around 9, soon to be underway, and I believe that we will have a tactical timeout from the side of BDS. As you see, Bias currently with the mic down is going to be having a bit of a talk with his lads. See if there's anything they can improve on here.
I think that's always the tricky thing when you're coming into your attack, things aren't quite hitting the mark. You can see BDS are trying to run the numbers onto the Wolves' approach. Losing a Lems very quickly is a huge blow because we know how important a player he can be. We know how important a player he's been on the grandest stage, on majors. It's the same thing when we talk about obviously P4 going out early, that vocal voice, that sort of driving force of the team. If they're the first off the board, let alone how they've done in the frag department, but in the conversational department, it can sort of cost you because suddenly it's like, you know, we've lost the engine, we've lost the heart of this approach.
Again, the last two best of ones these two teams have played, both went towards BDS. It was Border, stage 1 of the European League, 7-4 BDS. And stage 3 we played back 7-2 back then for BDS. Of course, the Wolves have made a small change in between those two best of ones, with the addition of Mowgli. However, where he so shined yesterday against Astralis, for example. He's really unable to truly find a connection to this game currently, but that might change because we have gone over towards the defense here, and suddenly they will be walking into your cross lines and crossfires because they need to be getting that diffuser down before the time runs out, and he might be able to get some extra kills, some extra confidence again to pull the rest of Wolves through.
Down to Kitchen with an extension here, and Kitchen is familiar to attack. You've actually seen a lot of teams try and pull away from it. In other regions, it's still in some teams' playbook, sure, and there's been growth. We saw BDS's holders very open, very wide. They like to try and draw the fights in and sort of say, we'll try and take us. We have the cover across all angles. It becomes awkward to approach, but this sort of lock-in defense is the more common, the more familiar. They're hopped up and seeing if they can get the angle behind the bakery bar as the drones wear away. You can see some of these players there on the mid-floor above the red stairs, just making sure that nobody gets an early approach here over train to get that verticality to force them out. It's a slow and steady, and BDS are making sure that they connect, unlike the round after Wolves is.
He would take a small amount of damage there, but he just peeks back. He's going to be able to find the kill, the entry kill for the side of Wolves here. And yeah, sure, some stuff is being tossed in there. A smoke to limit some of his vision, but Shink is just going to come around the corner as well, wants to provide some support. But as he goes down, so does Renshiro. We're in a foul now, trying to go aggressive to secure that kill. Is going to get taken out by Mowgli, comes around the corner.
Finds his second, wasn't entirely sure where the fight was going to come from. The grenade from his own team actually forced him into an awkward position. Now, Shaiko stepped into the spot, finds Mowgli, finds a smoke in his lungs. He's going to have to push into the bakery a little bit further. There's still a stretch. The default finally gets dropped. They don't know where he is, but they know he's inside, and you can see they're sort of shaping themselves up. Close on the swing, but Shaiko pre-fires round a triple for the round. Every single body of Wolves, he's driven them back into this. Renshiro finally offers some support, but a 4K from Shaiko is the response after the timeout. They are sitting on map point.
You saw him go for the reload there. It's an LMG. You do not see it quite often, but he only 12 bullets left. Heard something creep through the rotation there. Decided to get off, and 12 was all he needed for that very final kill. And with that, put BDS onto match point.
They are but one round away from a full 3 points. Unfortunately, at this point, the best Wolves can take is 2. They still have a lot of work left to do. They still have a sort of drive and a chance here, but you're looking at if it's another 4-2 half now, it's a little bit more dangerous. They've got to try and drive themselves over to the split, see if they can get this 5-1 that sort of eluded them, but BDS have been able to pull at the start of this swing round. It was the response that you want to a timeout, and it was a response that Wolves obviously didn't get with theirs.
Yeah, for sure. BDS instantly able to strike back, and, you know, they've taken off a lot of the pressure here because they've got that 1 point. You never know if that will be the difference maker at the end of the group, but now they have the opportunity, the possibility to go for all 3. And now they need to take a breather here. I mean, they cannot take a tactical timeout, but often the 7th round win is considered one of the most difficult ones. So headed back towards the top floor, BDS is going to be struggling potentially like they did before.
All right, Wolves, what do you have left? Does the pack have a bit of fight, or are they unfortunately whimpering tails between their legs here in a very important French showdown? A trade of hands of a kit here? What?
Shaiko with the diffuser?
Shaiko with the diffuser, man.
Yeah.
What's your question?
Oh, okay, then no question. I was just pointing out it's not something
You're
you see
telling me
very
it's
often.
not something you see very often?
Yeah, no, I mean...
Shaiko with the diffuser, you're telling me you don't see that very often?
I've seen him play Monty once or twice before.
I have also seen that.
I've seen him do that more than him picking up the diffuser.
Well, this time around, Shaiko with the kit. What's going to be the connection here? What's the drive? Because to be fair, Shaiko has knocked on the door of sight a couple of times, and, well, I guess that's his role if he's looking for those early entry fights and kills, and he's been doing it very, very well. 13-5 is a return to form that a lot of BDS fans are probably quite happy to see. But if we go back, we throw our minds back to how this site played out before, they were slowed. They couldn't quite find an angle in. So I'm curious to see, it's not just an adaptation there, but where? BDS get their response.
See this? They know there was a roamer last time. LM's currently on that middle floor, is trying to creep around a little bit, and the drones are trying to find out where he's being pushed. But he hears something descend on these red stairs. The timing might be not more off, but the whiffed opportunity is going to make him aware of the fact that someone's out there. But he also knows there is someone inside of reading. There is that roamer, the flanker, but they're all coming around him. It's 4 members of Wolves just hunting down LMs.
Well, there's the pack. There's that response that they needed to do. They realized there was the play. They had the ping. The E1D did nothing. Couldn't stop them. P4's now at the top of Cigar. He's in a position usually held by attackers, and he's kind of curious as to where they are. They've picked up, moved over to the opposite side. White window, white corridor, and I think one on Newbalk as well. It's really just this stretch around the opposite side, so they've sort of gone to another angle. Rise is caught out by Shaiko. The grenade is able to bounce around, but at this point I think it's a clever response from Wolves. They've realized all of the fights happening there, so why not be here instead?
For sure, trying to put up the pressure a little bit. So Wolves trying to return to their former spots because it was a very heavy hunt. 4 people down on the middle floor there means 4 people are currently off position, and they're still struggling because of it. A jump in comes in from Ranchero through the skylight, finds one, but he cannot quite connect. P4 able to strike, and that is a 2-on-3, a 1-on-3 situation now, but only Playday left. Shaiko, will he recharge? No, he will not. It's Bibu that will secure him before the adrenaline surge comes in.
6-4, still not over yet. 2 rounds, and the toughest is, well, going to be all of them. It's never quite over at this point. They've got to try and lock themselves in. No timeouts, no more conversations from either of these 2 teams. BDS, they know how important it is to get a full fat 3-point. Everybody's getting those little sort of semi-points, those little sort of 1s and 2s means that it's costly every single day. 3 is so valuable right now in that environment, in that concept of a lot of OTs. If you are the one that has just that extra inch, then suddenly your head is above the water and you're able to progress. And this, as we said before, is currently that fight for 2nd place based on the work Astralis has done. And Wolves, they're back-to-back here. They've got Astralis next up.
Every round will matter, every point will matter here, but BDS, of course, would prefer to take the full 3, and they probably don't care if it will be a 6-4 or 7-4 or 7-5 victory at that, because those points are going to be the first tiebreaker, of course, and after that is the round differential. So you want to make sure that you take as many as you can, and they have 2 more opportunities to do so. Now, reading is one where they failed before as well. Is the side that Wolves have been able to win. The only side is Kitchen that so far has been won by BDS on that attack. So they will go back there at some point either way, unless they do decide to go for mining Wolves on their next side, if they would be to win this one. So there is still some questions left to be answered here. As P4 preparing himself for some angles, preparing himself for some ways to fight for his position. Whereas the rest of BDS is trying to take the top floor under their control.
They're seeing if they can get themselves now just that one more connection. Obviously, they've suffered sometimes in that early engagement and not been able to build behind it. They couldn't quite get the lock-in here before. They were operating on the body disadvantage for pretty much the entire round. But again, if we're talking about Shaiko getting into positions quick and early, he was able to force P4 out of that location and take over Train. They tried to go for a deep dive into Dining, and they couldn't quite make that full connection. So is this going to be a different approach? Is this going to be a different response here from the side of Wolves? Shaiko's putting the pressure over the top. There's still the setup here. There's, you assume, drones wearing from the pockets of Ranchero. They're trying to get the clear, and well, there's a fight. Rise lent in, takes the head off of Alems, pulls himself back, knows that they've got the body advantage once again. We didn't do it on the window this time, Alems, but it's the same result either way.
Yeah, not being hunted down by 4 either doesn't really seem to be mattering for now, at least. BDS, they want to start opening up. They want to start creating some entry positions, but it is still that top floor. There is 80 seconds left, Emmy, and they have not even taken that top floor control yet that they do so desperately need. There is smoke canisters being tossed out. There is still players around it. 3 to be exact. Well, make that 2. And as Mowgli right now is hoping to retake that position, to retake the fight, it is an active 3-on-3 situation.
Shaiko is able to find one more, keeps himself burning alive inside this game. Ranchero looking for the angles down towards the drop, but a C4 gets some response. The grenade has one of its own almost. Shinka is able to survive with a bit of shrapnel in his face, but as the rotation comes through, 50 seconds, and now it is just Playday left, a 3 versus 1. Wolves have pulled themselves away, a huge fight back and forth over the verticalities. They sort of made sure that the ground was uncomfortable for any step and response here. They didn't hand over free territories. They kept BDS awkward. And though he's got 30 seconds and 3 more bodies to find, the kid is in pocket. There is still some of the work that's been done. He's curious and fishing, but if we're going to compliment BDS on not overextending when they didn't have to, it's the same here for Wolves.
Yeah, for sure. It's a 1-3, and that means everything is still possible. You're playing against Playday as well, one of those players with an insane clutch factor that he would more than likely want to use, but no, is going to be able to get the opportunity here. 10 seconds. Time is running out. We'll find one. Swings around the corner there, but the player's already long gone there. So we'll go for an attempt for the plant. We'll most likely be hunted down before he can complete that. There it is. Got hunted down before he completed it. Last 5 rounds, Emmy. 5 entry kills for the side of Wolves. Only one of them wasn't translated. It's the very first one that we had in this game here. But overall, they're very, very efficient with hunting down that first player. And may it be with 4 people down, suddenly dropping to that middle floor because they know Alems is currently being hot droned in. Or whether it be to just take that first gunfight aggressively throughout the piano, they're able to find him. And you know how I said, Kitchen was the side that was won by BDS before, so they have a good opportunity of potentially still closing it out, unless they go to mining. We're going to mining.
We're going to mining.
We're going to mining. We see all 4 sides coming in here for the side of the Wolves. Let's see, because it plays relatively similar towards the reading and dining room. It's just that there's now a direct window. You could go for a hop-in and you could go for a plant. So you see 2 of those hot pockets being placed. You see the castle barricade coming in. They're doing everything they can to try and limit the attackers, their possibilities as much as they possibly can from the mining side of things, whilst they will be going for a very mirrored setup like they had in reading because the verticality is so important.
5 seconds remaining.
Okay, Wolves, 1 difference, 1 more swing for a chance at best 2 points, but maybe 1 on the other side of it. You're looking now at an angle, you're looking at an opportunity here to keep this fight for 2nd place alive. A late castle, Mowgli's offering some emotional support, but they're able to get it done. Still structural work coming through on the round, but BDS aren't always the quickest to try and get their response on their attack. They're aware that they can play themselves to their own hand. They're a structured team that enjoy the structure side of it. That castle we saw get up, got down. Is he going to wait for the drone? He does get it caught there, and Alems is sort of eyeing up every angle with curiosity here.
For sure. And BDS, this is their last opportunity for those 3 points. They had 3 of them. Let's see if they're going to be able to pull something off. Is it going to be Shaiko again to pull in a magnificent quad kill to force them through quite literally by himself? Or is it going to be the rest of the team that steps up and they just find and single out the players of Wolves who have been hunting them most of the time? No, it's another entry kill that will be headed towards the Wolves. That is currently 6 in a row, every single one in this half. And let's see if they will translate it in the end as well.
Alems is waiting for this backpack to sliver just a little bit further around the corner. Are they aware of his position? Well, it didn't matter. A huge swing there from Mowgli. The reactions of a player who did not have any in the opening half of the game. And sure, he hasn't had an impact that he could, but still, if that's one of the ones that drives them into OT, then it's going to be one that they treasure more than any other. Not talking about the brilliance of Rise being able to keep consistently finding these early fights, the experience of a man who's been on these stages before. Shaiko said he was that sort of effect that came into gear last time they were on the back foot and were able to actually win an attack round here. And Jiro's trying to put some pressure, pre-firing the angles either side of the heart. They know where the kit wants to go down, but P4's feeding as much intel he can from deep underneath.
Still has a nitro cell as well, so he's going to be waiting to try and find a way to use that to stop a plant from happening and handicap BDS's opportunities of winning this game even more so. And it seems like we are going to overtime. There's 45 seconds left for us to decide whether or not that will be the case, but there is a 2-minute advantage here. There is still all the utility in the world for the side of Wolves to stop them if they want to go for a plant. So the only opportunity BDS have is to just explode and take all the kills in their way.
They're looking down towards the site itself. It's always a scary thing with the angle and idea of a hatch drop. Shaiko's going to see if he can just offer a first, a bit of width here. It's an important bit of movement, and he's able to strike inside the back of Zulu. Renshiro gets one of his own. He's in the sight. They drop out. They have 10 seconds. They're going to see if they can get the kit planted. The C4 just doesn't get the catch. He can't find the shot in the angle. 2 versus 2. They can't get the kit out. They're pulling their way back up. The swing round on the red stairs is pre-fired, and they're heading their way up. The cold grenade is going to buy them a second, and now they got to see if they can get that vertical angle. They got to see if they can get themselves structured. It's 2 stories. They're well aware of this, so they're going to see if they can get the loop all the way to the top. There it is. Renshiro getting an angle that he's played before. He knows how he wants to do it. The first is theirs. Renshiro gets the double, and BDS get the 3 points.
They managed to bring it back from a 5-3. The plans go through. The C4 not in the right place. They pop the Vulcan canisters and move themselves up to that top floor. A barricade or a reinforced wall stops them from a wallbang attempt, and Renshiro just locks it off, and BDS take a 3 very important points.
It was such an important game for BDS. It was an important game for Wolves too, but Shaiko having a few huge rounds and Renshiro showing up at the end. It is that moment for them that they need to try and turn into a little bit more of a success. Another near miss for Wolves, but we'll be back after a quick break to have a closer look at it.